Okay, everybody out there, is everybody ready? Y'all ready? I'm getting huge responses. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Let's do
Here
this
we
thing.
go. Here we go. Here's the start. There you go, everybody. Good morning. And I got to tell you, to play a trumpet the first thing in the morning, it's like waking up and then running a 100-yard dash. So I got to warm up a little bit more. But anyway, let's kick this off. And I want to tell you the name of that song that I just played is called Besame Mucho. And actually, it translates to kiss me a lot. In Spanish, it's Besame Mucho. And English is kiss me a lot. Now, I'll give you interesting data on this. It was written by Consuelo Velasquez in 1940. He's a Mexican songwriter. Now, this is one of the most famous boleros ever. Now, I didn't play it the speed of a bolero just for the sake of timing because I don't want to take up that much time of the program. But listen to this. In 1999, it was recognized as the most sung and recorded Mexican song in the world. So you heard it here. And where else do you go on TV or the internet where the host comes out, you think he's going to do an interview, and he comes out and he plays a 100-year-old horn and he plays some famous song that maybe you know, maybe you don't know, and gives you some information on it. You get a little bit of cultural enrichment. I'll tell you where you go. This is the only place you go. Life After Scientology, and I'm your host, Ron Miscavige. So welcome to the show. Let me put my horn away. Now, before we get into the show, and I have a very interesting guest today who's going to educate you. And I say this is a real education because the more educated you are, the more powerful you can be in operating in life, the more capable, and just all around lead a better life with more education on things that really matter. Let's go into this first, though. We have a couple new Patreons, and one is Jenna Meyer for $5. Jenna, I want to thank you very much. That's very nice of you. And Bridget Graham, like Graham Cracker. Bridget Graham for $2. Thank you very much, Bridget. Now, any of you out there who aren't patrons, I invite you to join up and become part of this crusade we're doing because I'm sure you watch this program because you want to get the education, you want to get enlightened, but it's also entertaining to some degree. So instead of just being a watcher, you can be a participant just for $1 or $2 or $5 or $10 or whatever you want to do. So please join up today. And secondly, if you can get other people to subscribe, I'd really appreciate it because I'd like the show to be at least 10 times bigger. So this is more people that we're educating. So now, this morning, though, I have a guest on who's probably one of the most knowledgeable people I know on this subject. It's Jeffrey Augustine. So good morning, Jeffrey.
Good morning, Ron. How are you?
I'm pretty good, buddy. And I have a question for you, okay?
Yes, sir.
What exactly is the International Association of Scientologists? In other words, what exactly, not what it's purported to be, what exactly is the IAS? Because you hear a lot of stories about them being this or that, but what exactly it is. Let's get right into it, Jeff, okay?
Okay, well, the International Association of Scientologists is the official membership organization of the Church of Scientology International. Now, let's leave that there, okay? In order to do or be a Scientologist, you have to belong to the International Association of Scientologists.
Yeah. Now wait, Jeff, I'm going to interrupt you just for 1 second. The IAS was started in what, 1982?
No, it started in, well, let's start with the earlier history.
Yeah, this is what I want to get, because
Okay.
there wasn't always an IAS. There was a different membership. Could we just take that up just for a second?
Sure.
So it ever comparable? Okay, go on.
Well, originally, L. Ron Hubbard, and you have to remember, Scientology is a series of corporations that are legally separate. So, the old original organization was, let's just say, Hubbard Association of Scientologists International, HASI,
Right.
which you joined when you joined. When did you start? 64?
No, in 1970.
1970. Okay. So you belong to the Hubbard Association of Scientologists International. You had a HASI membership, right?
Right.
Okay. And then you had to belong to HASI to do auditing in the church. I mean, that was sort of the general rule, right?
Exactly.
Now, so for lower level courses, you didn't have to, and I don't want to split hairs here. But let's fast forward to July 8, 1977. The FBI raids Scientology in Los Angeles, Washington, D.C. And you were a member when the FBI raids occurred.
I was there. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, Jeff.
Yeah.
The church in Philadelphia was bringing over boxes full of documents and papers, and I had an outside fireplace on a deck on my house and an inside fireplace. And we spent an entire day throwing these documents into a fire and destroying them. This was going on with a lot of people in those days.
What a great bit of history.
Oh, yeah.
You were throwing Scientology documents into your fireplace.
Yep.
That's a gung-ho Scientologist. Let's destroy some evidence.
Listen, I'm telling you, man, we thought we were doing the most honorable thing ever, that the FBI, the government, they were all bad. And we had to protect our church. Look, I was a Kool-Aid drinker.
I understand. I
understand. I'll admit it, man. I used to recruit people to do courses, recruit people for the Sea Org. Yeah, we were burning documents.
Well, see, that's an interesting aside, Ron. I know a lady who stole files from a psychiatrist's office. She posed as a new patient, went in early, and then he was with a patient, and the receptionist was gone. She went in and actually stole confidential medical records from a doctor's office. She was a volunteer. Yeah. So criminality, good people can be made to do criminal things. And that's just part of Scientology, and you think you're doing the right thing. So anyway, the raid happens on July 8, 1977. Eventually, Mary Sue Hubbard and 10 other top Scientologists are indicted and charged. And they the problem this creates is the church has to fund their legal defense, but it doesn't want to do it out of church dollars. So it creates what's called the Safe Environment Fund, or the SEF. So the Safe Environment Fund was a legal defense fund. So long story short, the Snow White defendants sign a stipulation of evidence, and they plead to these one charge, and some of them go to jail for several years, some go for a few months. But Mary Sue Hubbard, goes off to jail. So when it's all over with, there's a meeting where David Miscavige is there, and there's a church attorney, Mike Rinder's there, and he's telling me about a meeting where the church attorney says to COB, hey, the great thing is we never had to give any of this money back. And David Miscavige thinks, what a great idea. It's free money. Because Ron, here's one of the intangibles the church never talks about. It's a lot of work to deliver 1 hour of auditing for the church. Yeah. A lot of people behind the scenes. It's not just an auditor, it's all kinds of support staff, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You have a case supervisor, you have a tech page who goes and gets the person. You have multitudinous people who are working on that person's 1 hour of auditing. You're right.
Yeah, so it can take years to train an auditor.
Yeah.
And then people have to watch the auditing session, record it, correct the auditor, and the auditor has to train up. So if you had to do like just say 50 hours of staff work to do some auditing on a person, and you'd have all these people involved. Or you could just take free money without having to deliver anything except a trophy. It's easier to take free money. So
Wait. I got to correct you. And one other thing,
yeah.
a piece of paper that says you're a wonderful person.
Oh yeah, that piece of paper. That's an important thing. So this idea of let's do two things. Let's create a source of income that's legally separate from the church for legal defense. And so what they did is they got this idea to create the International Association of Scientologists. And what they did is they replaced the old Hubbard Association of Scientologists International. So it's a new corporation. And its purpose is to defend, expand, disseminate the Scientology religion. But the important thing to realize, it's a legally separate corporation. So that if another FBI raid happened, or worse, the church were put into receivership by the federal government, you'd have this legally separate pool of money that the church didn't control, was not owned by the church, and the government couldn't seize it. So
now, if this isn't owned by the church, who does own that money? Who's the legal person who can take money out of it?
Well, that's a good question. Basically, the IES was created in Curacao, where the ship docks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's an offshore corporation. It has like its land quarters in Curacao, and a Dutch tax lawyer named George Prague was the guy who created the structure, Curacao Trust Management. And I kind of put this together because it's just funny to look at. And I just sort of just printed this off. It's on my blog. But in order to understand, and you can put the link in your show notes. The IES is controlled by Curacao Trust Management originally. It's owned by itself. But let's get into the minutia. The IES is what's called an unincorporated membership association. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean? As I've been talked about on your show before, Ron, if you and I like trumpet playing, a couple other guys like trumpet playing, and so we had the West Dallas Trumpet Club.
Right.
And we would just meet and hang around and play trumpet and, play 100-year-old music. So we were aficionados, correct?
Right.
We're an unincorporated membership association. We're just a group of men and women who hang around and love trumpet music. But we don't have what? We don't have a corporation. We don't have a checkbook. We don't have stationery. We can't do anything legally. Like, we can't go in and say, hey, we're the West Dallas Trumpet Club, give us a loan at the bank.
Right.
They'd say, what's your legal form? So the IES is unincorporated and it can't do anything legally by itself. It's just Scientologists. So it has to have an operating arm. That is somebody, a group of people or an entity that can operate on its behalf. This operating arm of the IES is the International Association of Scientology Administrations, the IASA.
Right.
The IASA is the operating arm. It's staffed by Sea Org members. So this gets hard to follow, but I just stay with me, okay?
Yeah, but wait, before you go any further,
Yeah.
I remember on the ship, they had offices on the Freewinds, the IASA.
Yeah.
And it was staffed totally by Sea Org members. And was it Janet Light that was running it in those days?
Correct. So
we just want to get, because I'm anxious to see who can actually take money out of there. How does that work, Jeff?
okay, well, basically, the incorporation documents had Carl held, Maureen Brigatti, they held shares for the IES as IES members. However, those were held by the Curacao Trust Management. And there was also Membership Services Administration in the UK. Janet Light had 1%. So basically, you had a holding company, Curacao Trust Management, holding the shares for IES members who were unincorporated nobodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you had, and these are really obscure people, but you had individuals Costas Comedicius, KEMIDJIS, and Taslaw Nominees Limited. You basically had a lot of offshore entities holding the money for the church. And the people who were, and it goes down to a Theta Management Limited. So it's all an offshore mess of spaghetti. It's deliberately hard to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
The people that can take money out of the IES are David Miscavige.
That's it.
It's controlled by Chairman of the Board, Religious Technology Center. Now, supposedly the IES has a board of directors, but again, to my analogy for a trumpet club that doesn't have any legal standing, that doesn't mean anything. We could elect you president of our trumpet club, but you couldn't do anything. So the Sea Org controls the IASA. They control all the money. The Sea Org gives a unity of command across all the legally separate Scientology corporations. And what we know is the highest ranking member of the Sea Org controls everything. So it's Captain David Miscavige is the one who decides how the money is spent.
Wow.
And
so if this sounds confusing, I guess it's meant to sound confusing, isn't it?
Well, all of Scientology is designed to be legally evasive. So if you sue them in California, but they're actually based in Florida, they can argue, they can get the suit thrown out for, lack of diversity issues, right? Jurisdictional issues. You sue them in Florida, they're in California. And that's how it's set up. So the IES was originally a non-situs trust on the ship. Its address was the ship in international waters. So it made it very hard to figure out who actually owned it. But for all intents and purposes, the money was controlled by David Miscavige. And while Janet Light was ostensibly in charge of the IASA,
mm-hmm.
she took orders from Chairman of the Board. And so this money became a big pool of money, and they realized that it's tax-free. And you remember Jim and Tammy Baker, the Praise of the Lord Club?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Jim Baker went to prison because he collected money for one purpose, but he spent it on something else. So with when it comes to churches, if you collect money for a building, you have to spend it on a building.
Right.
Or whatever. You got to spend it on whatever you say. So by having the IES be very broad, it's for the protection, defense, dissemination of the Scientology religion. You can spend the money on anything, including private investigators, ideal orgs, spying on people, harassing people. Pat Broker was followed for 25 years.
Yeah.
By two PIs. Somebody had to pay those. We don't know where the money came from. The Church of Scientology International probably, but the money may have come through a donation to the IES. So what the IES exists for is to have probably 1.5 billion is my guess is what they have. That's the number that's generally used. It could be more, it could be less, we don't know.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Somewhere in the past, I've heard that they had about 3 billion. I don't know where that figure came from, but I heard that you're bandied about for a while.
Well, it might be. What I found is the Church of Scientology on this side with all their buildings and what they put in their IRS forms, I have found $1.75 billion in real estate. And that's depreciated. It's probably more. And I add 1.5 billion for the IES to get 3 billion, a little over 3 billion. But see, that's just it. And in America, churches don't have to file any financial statements, so we don't know. I can show 1.75 billion for the church for sure.
Right.
That on my blog. And so anyways, you have this big pool of cash. Now, it was created in 1985.
Right.
They did it at St. Hill.
I remember that.
In England. They call it Ron's home because L. Ron Hubbard lived there. And everything in Scientology is designed to make money. I remember one time when Marty Rathbun was out, he told me that David Miscavige would not be comfortable until he had $1 billion in the IES fund. Because he had been, a subject of investigation by the IRS Criminal Investigation Division.
Yeah.
And then Lisa McPherson came along. So he felt the heat for a lot of stuff. So he felt like $1 billion in money would firewall him from pretty much anything.
That's probably true because if you have enough money, you can get away with murder, has been proven in the past.
Well, appallingly, for people following the Jeffrey Epstein case in New York, pedophile sex trafficker, the reason Secretary of Labor Acosta was fired was because of his handling of the original case in the last decade. And if you look at Epstein's legal defense team, it was stunning. He had some of the best lawyers money could buy, including Alan Dershowitz, who's professor emeritus at Harvard. Ken Starr, who did the Watergate report, led to Bill Clinton's impeachment trial in the U.S. Senate. When Monique Rathbun was suing the Church of Scientology and David Miscavige and others, I went down to Texas, New Braunfels, Texas, sat in Judge Waldrop's courthouse and saw the 22 Scientology lawyers.
Gee.
22. There were so many lawyers that they put the lawyers for the lesser defendants in the jury box, and I call those the cheap seats.
Jesus Christ!
But
wait,
they had
22 lawyers.
Yeah, I saw them.
How would they figure out who's going to talk first? I mean, it must have been a morass.
Well, the judge set it up. Basically, David Miscavige's lawyer had lead chair, and that was Lamont Jefferson. Now, Lamont's brother Wallace was the Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court, and he had retired to go into private practice. So he was there. So you have this is the former Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court representing David Miscavige in court.
Unbelievable. So
that's why that $1 billion, and then once you got to $1 billion, it had to keep going. And we see these pictures of Scientology, what we call bowling trophies.
Yeah.
And the reason we call them bowling trophies is they're ostentatious and gaudy.
Yeah.
So you get a piece of paper saying what a good person you are. Now, an interesting thing I wanted to get in the IES, because it's free money, you don't have to give anything in exchange. It inherently violates L. Ron Hubbard's doctrine of exchange.
Exactly.
L. Ron Hubbard said that exchange is a core principle of the Church of Scientology. In other words, Ron, if I give you something, you must give me something back, so we stay in exchange.
Exactly.
And that's only fair. That's how the Church of Scientology got, part of how it got its IRS tax exemption, is it said, the IRS said, well, if people are paying to get auditing, then it's a quid pro quo. And they said, no, it's our doctrine of exchange. And we'll get into the IRS maybe on another show. I keep threatening to give my contrarian view of how the church got tax exemption. But anyway, once the IRS was set up, the next thing you had to have is what, Ron? Can you guess?
After that, you got me. Go on.
You have to have fundraisers. You have to have regs, people to go out and get the money.
Of course.
So immediately you had to put together fundraisers. Now the IES has different classes of fundraisers. Field staff members, right?
Yep.
So they go out and reg. Field disseminators. Field disseminator. It's just a funny word. I'm a field disseminator. Okay, these are individual fundraisers who get a 10% commission. I think the commission has changed over time. You used to be able to make a lot of money, then they capped it. They don't want you to get too big of a cut of the action.
I know. Listen, at one point I saw some of the quote fundraisers, and one guy who's quite famous, as a matter of fact, he's the voice of Scientology. He does all the videos. And one year he made over $250,000 fundraising.
That would be Pomerantz, Jeff Pomerantz.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him in his green
Lamborghini.
Ferrari. He has a green Ferrari.
Oh, it's a green Ferrari. I thought it was a Lamborghini. Yeah.
Oh no, I think it is a Lambo.
Yeah.
Anyway, I saw him tooling around those filas here one day, and yeah, you can make a lot of money. So
yeah.
if I convince you, Ron, and say you're extremely wealthy,
yeah,
and you're a Scientologist, and I convince you that the entire agonized fate of the planet is at stake. Psychiatry may destroy Scientology organizations, and we need your $1 million today.
Yeah.
You donate it, you get the tax write-off.
Yeah.
And if you need the tax write-off, it's a great place to donate, because you get to go on the ship, get your picture taken with COB, get your bowling trophy, and you feel really good. So, and I get 10% of it back in the day. So I'd make 100,000 off you. So yeah, I could buy a green Lamborghini if I did that 10 times in a year. Now, there's also membership tours, and these are groups, these are individual private contractors. And they go out and they pay all their expenses, and they again get 2% according to the document. These documents are what the IRS or what the church gave the IRS. Now, Ron, tell me, I've talked to Sea Org people who say that IES fundraisers of any group, whether they're tours or field disseminators, they can literally walk into an org and order people around.
Yeah.
I mean, is that the IES, even though it's a separate legal corporation, as I understand the matter,
if they were to come in and say, listen, we're going to have an event this evening, nobody in that org is going to say, no, you're not.
so they have free range. They can just walk in and,
yeah.
Ron, help me to understand something. I was talking to Chris Shelton. We did an interview, I don't know, a year ago or something. He's talking about everyone that can walk into orgs and cross order and push, how you can have a lot of different bosses.
Yeah, of course.
So if an RTC rep comes into an org, they can do anything they want.
No question about it.
So RTC can just, even though they're a legally separate corporation.
Not a question about it. If they come in, you just say yes or no, sir. Whatever they say, it goes.
And you run to that point about RTC being able to barge in anywhere and do anything. That's how the OT levels were stolen from Copenhagen. Some former members, Robin Scott and other people, posed as Sea Org. They dressed up like Sea Org and they barged in and said, we want to inspect the files and the security.
Wow, that's right.
And everyone was terrified. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And they stole the damn OT levels.
Yep.
So the IES can, they have because you don't have to deliver any auditing or do anything. If I could take free money as a church and by just giving out awards, I'd rather have that than do all the work of auditing.
And that's what it's dwindled down to, because I remember when I was still in the Sea organization prior to 2012, because my wife and I left, we escaped on March 25th, 2012. In my in basket, largely what I would get is news about people who have now increased their status from patron to maybe patron meritorious. There was even one note I got one day that the buildings in the place where the staff are housed down in Clearwater, there's a series of buildings, and each building is considered an entity. And there was one building that their FSM commissions hit in those days $40,000, and they were awarded a patronship. The building was. This is big news. Now, what does this have to do with clearing a planet or making people more capable through auditing, as L. Ron Hubbard professed his auditing would do? It has nothing to do with it. And what you're doing is you're exposing, this is a scam. This is exactly what it is, because it's wonderful that you could start an organization, have the power to lord it over everybody in the in Scientology, in the organizations, and don't have to deliver anything for it.
Ron, it's a great way to get free money, and you're right. They don't have to give you anything. And when you donate that money, you're never getting it back. You sign when you donate that IES donations are non-refundable.
Wow.
And that's in Scientology called a one-way flow. All the money moves to us. You'll never get it back. And,
well, let's save the story on that for a different time, though, because that's an interesting story on its own.
Okay. Well, let me summarize the IES.
Okay.
Basically, it's a legally separate corporation from the Church of Scientology International. It doesn't do anything, so it has an operating arm that is staffed by Sea Org members. Sea Org members report to David Miscavige. So the answer is he effectively owns and controls it. Even though on paper it might look like other people own it, he effectively owns and controls it. So
well, yeah, if you're the only one who can say where the money goes or what you're going to spend it on, that's your money.
It effectively is. If you control the checkbook, it's your money.
Wow.
And in recent years, as fundraising has gone down for ideal orgs, the IAS has had to increasingly step in and fill holes to get ideal orgs opened, because the field has been so drained. There's such massive fatigue. There's such massive donation fatigue in the Church of Scientology. People have literally been bled dry.
Yeah.
Except for some wealthy whales, who can kick in. So that's what the IAS is. It's a wealth extraction scheme. It's part of a larger wealth extraction scheme called the Church of Scientology. So it's just another component in this big wealth extraction scheme.
Boy, that summarizes a wealth extraction. So you're being euphemistic when you use that term, because you could say that it's a way to steal money from people.
Well, what I say, it's a high pressure wealth extraction scheme designed to separate people from their money as fast as possible.
And it's painless, and they get a title, and they get adoration, and they can stand on a stage and everybody claps for them. Wow. This is life on planet Earth, huh? This is the Church of Scientology and the IAS. Jeffrey, I advise everybody who's watching this program to look at it again, because this is valuable information. Maybe you didn't catch it the first time, but it's worth watching a couple times. And to close out, please, are there any of you out there who have been deciding yes or no to become a patron, I would say, why not do it today? You're going to help us keep on putting on these programs and the ongoingness of this program, as they say. And I will continue to have on people like Jeffrey Augustine, who, this was brilliant, Jeffrey. I got to tell you, man. And we got to have you back. There's some more stuff I'd like to talk to you about. So, Jeffrey, I want to thank you very much.
Oh, thanks, Ron. Great to be with you. And for new time viewers to your show, donate. And also check out my blog, the Scientologymoneyproject.com.
I advise you to do that also. Now, my producer's trying to get my attention here. Go on.
Yeah, you have Kimberly Hallman for $2. Love your show, Ron. You are doing great things.
Oh, Kimberly,
Thanks, Kimberly.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So, Jeffrey, let's continue on with. I could say you're educating the public. This is wonderful, and everybody watches. Wait, give the name of your podcast again.
Well, my podcast is Surviving Scientology Radio. Karen's channel on YouTube is Surviving Scientology with Karen De La Carriere, my lovely wife. And my blog's the Scientologymoneyproject.com.
Thank you. Go on. I'm sorry.
I'm going to say my blog, I cover money, legal, propaganda. So we're covering some interesting stories right now that I'm sure will make your podcast hopefully sooner than later. There's a couple stories breaking out there.
It's fabulous. Jeffrey, thank you very much. And for all of you out there, this has been Life After Scientology. I'm your host, Ron Miscavige, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye-bye for now.